Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this Board of Education meeting to order at 6:30. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there any public comment in the room? Hi, come on up, Carl.
Carl Johnston, 8 Ruderman Road, here as a taxpayer tonight. I would like you guys, since you're dealing with something that's been over 30 days as far as your internet hack, that you try and figure out how to, or at least consider not spending or doing anything until we get a hold on what your finances are going to have to be to fix it. That would be anything that you got coming up as far as extra stuff, maybe even salaries. Just hold everything as a still till we get a good hold on what you guys think you're going to have to spend for that amount to fix whatever's going on or whatever you have to do for repairs. That would be my only concern. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Jackie, did you want to come up?
Okay. Hi, Jackie Berry. I am the president of the Teachers Union in North Stonington, and I'm one of the reading specialists at the elementary school. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. I just wanted to share some numbers with you with regards to how the technology issues have affected teachers. I'm not sure if everyone is aware of everything that has occurred in the last few weeks. So we sent out a survey to get some more information from teachers from both schools. 58% of teachers did not have access to a computer or a laptop at all during the 3 weeks where we were really struggling with when everything started. And that's including at home. So that 58% don't have a computer or laptop at home either. 76% did not have access to a printer, again, including at home. 56% could not use their smartboard to teach. And we have a lot of programs that rely heavily on the smartboard. 51% of teachers use their own personal hotspot, and not everyone had this option as well. And 5% of teachers, which was only a few teachers, changed their data plan and or added a hotspot and spent up to $50 extra for the month. 64% used their personal phone to attend Zoom meetings. 59% of teachers who did have a printer had to buy their own ink and also paper to use at home to print. 70% of teachers spent more time working at home than usual. It was anywhere from 1 to 15 hours per week extra on top of what they usually do, but the average was 2 hours per day. 14% purchased a laptop or computer during this time, and 19% did not receive remind messages. That was a system they were trying to use to give us updates. And some people had no idea what was going on because they couldn't even get the messages. They couldn't get the updates at all. Last I was told, we lost our H drive altogether, which means some people have 20 to 30 years of work that is just gone, and we're expected to just move on, business as usual. Some of the comments on the survey that people shared, some of the words they used were stressed, worried, overwhelmed, mentally and physically exhausted, isolated. There was a lack of communication, not feeling like they were being taken seriously, and again, a feeling like business as usual. So we're asking for time somehow. I don't know if we can be creative with it, but we need time. We need time to recover documents that were lost. So many years that people have lost documents. Data was lost, documents, lesson plans. I mean, there's so much. I can't even share everything that was lost on the H drive. And like, again, I was told we weren't getting that back. So somehow we need to get that time. And, you know, we've been asked to we have to be ready for NEAS this week, and we have to be ready for our goals are still due. And, you know, we're not, it's like everyone's acting like nothing happened, and we were all really affected by this. So I'm just here to represent everyone, and I thank you all for listening, and I hope that you all will find a way to support the teachers. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. I know that Troy has met with you in the union, and so I'm sure in the future, Troy will bring up any sort of plan that he thinks is best to the board. Okay. Any public comment online? Okay, I don't see any.
I'd like to make a motion to add the teacher's contract to executive session, remove the safety and security from executive session, and then additionally add to 6E, our capital list.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. I asked Lisa to add those. We got some information today about the capital list. We won't have to talk about safety and security. And then there's some information that Troy has regarding teacher contract negotiations. So I apologize for the last minute stuff.
Can I just ask, are we replacing A with teacher contract under 10A then?
Seems appropriate. Lisa, would that be
So we're
okay
just
with you and your motion?
switching as opposed to adding and subtracting? Just
Yes.
Replacing, got it.
Perfect. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Perfect. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Troy, do you have any correspondence?
I do not.
I do have one piece of correspondence sent to me, and actually Troy, today, and it was asked to be read. I'm writing to express my disappointment that I have seen some members of the Board of Education during the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. These elected members should be examples to the children and students to show respect, honor, and the sacrifice many have made for that flag. It is one of the values that, in my opinion, because of the belief in that flag, our free public school system opportunity became available to all children. Therefore, I would like to know the reason why some Board of Ed members refuse to salute their country's flag, which many have died for, fought for, and honored and cherished, and represents the values of our country. I also understand that the school computer may have been compromised. If this is true, how has it affected teachers' ability to teach, our students' education, school curriculum, and what has been done to remedy the problem? I ask you to read this to the Board of Education and respond to my questions. Thank you, Brian Rathbun. I did respond to Brian and let him know that I would read it and that the computer issues were on our agenda tonight. So moving into reports. Troy, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so the staffing update, we did hire Alex Patton to be maintenance position. He started this past Monday. He has quite a bit of experience actually with tree work and supervising others. And he also has quite a bit of experience repairing plumbing, electrical, automotive, small engines type of thing. So we believe he has great potential to really help us out. So we're glad to have Alex Patton join us. Today, we finished our day one of the NEAS Collaborative Conference. It went really well. I met with the chair at the end of the day. I think they had a very good day observing classrooms, meeting and talking to teachers and different committees. And I think they're impressed with what they've seen, what they've heard. They'll be doing a few more meetings with students and parents tomorrow and a few more classroom observations, but mostly writing a report for us to give us feedback on how we're doing. So that really exciting. It's a team of 9 people, really high-powered team. There's the chair is a past assistant superintendent in Berlin. The assistant chair, one of them is the current superintendent in New Britain. And then there's several other administrators and teachers on the team. I wanted to, I am going to talk about the technology updates later, and I'll talk about how hard it's been when we get to the agenda item. But I wanted to take a moment just to appreciate the fact that our Board of Ed members are volunteers, and it's hard work, and it's sometimes thankless. and there's challenges, and there could be conflict, it can be really hard discussions and hard decisions. And two of our board members is their last meeting. So I wanted to take some time just to reflect on the fact that Lisa and Stephanie have been really strong board members, very dedicated to us. Lisa for, I think, 4 years, Stephanie for 8. I think that's right. 6. Okay. And their contributions are going to be missed. They're very passionate about some students, and I think that they deserve some kind of recognition. So I just want to give them a round of applause.
Thanks, Troy.
So that concludes my report, but I'll be talking much more later in some of the other.
Does anybody have any questions for Troy about his report?
I just wanted to clarify, Alex Patton was a custodial maintenance hire?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Anything else?
How are we doing with the para hire and the replacement for the nurse?
It's still in process with the nurse. Para hire,
Wasn't there an ad out for a para?
yes.
Yeah.
I'm not recalling where we are exactly with that. I don't think we've hired anybody. No, we haven't. I meet with everybody we hire typically. So I haven't met with anybody recently, but it is the middle of the year. So it is possible that happened. And we didn't follow all those normal procedures, but I'm pretty sure it's no. But I can confirm that with you. I'll have to send an email to the board.
Anybody else? Troy, I just had a question about, it was Monday that the kids went in late,
Yes, yes.
and you had mentioned that there was a situation with the generator at the
Yes.
elementary school. Can you
Yeah.
give us a quick update on that?
Sure. And Randy will be speaking later about another topic. He might have more to add to that later. Basically, what happened was we discovered that the elementary school was completely dark and lost all power, even though the generator kicked on. The generator was not feeding power into the building. Okay, so Randy and Alan Ladd were on site trying to figure that out, why it's happening, but I couldn't bring kids into school into a dark building with no indication that it was going to be lit up. So I had to make a late call on that. We called it just before the high school kids hopped on the bus. And we also had flickering lights in this building and the high school building at the same time. So, and a lot of the town was out of power, and including some of the the traffic light. So it was a late call, but I think it was a call that had to be made. We are investigating what's wrong with the generator, and hopefully we'll get those answers soon.
So I know that our generators have been a little tricky. Over the last 6 months or so, we're finding some of these issues out. Is there a way for us to do like a dry run with those, maybe over the weekend or
Yes.
at night?
Yes, there is. In fact, Randy is already working on scheduling that with Cummings, that's the company that has installed them. And they believe the best case scenario will be to come early in the day before students are here and run a test on it, knowing that it's not going to interfere with the regular power. And we'll be able to have a day definitely, but to run a test then actually for both schools. So that's the plan. The company is sometimes difficult to schedule to come in.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else with questions?
I have a quick question. While we're working on the generator for the elementary school, are they going to touch base on the list that you had given us last meeting or the meeting before?
Yes,
the
yes, they
hallways,
are
the
actually.
bathrooms?
Yeah, the idea of, I gave you a list of what the generator does not power, and it would be helpful if it did. But I need to give you the list of what the generator actually does power.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're on that.
Okay, I'll move on to my report. Like Troy said, this is my last regular meeting My resignation, however, is effective on 11/5, so I'll still be around for a little bit, just to deal with any issues that come up and to be tying up some loose ends. I am going to meet with Bob Carlson on Friday just to make sure that I have a running list of the things that we just haven't closed the loop on. I'm happy to meet with the new chair and share all my notes to make the transition relatively seamless. I think I just want to say out loud a few things that we have all talked about here that we talked about circling back on. I don't want to lose that in the transition. So I looked back to some of the agendas and my notes on those agendas. I tried to circle back on as much as I could, but these are still outstanding. So the field facility usage policies and fees regarding that, the financial procedures manual, and then I'm just adding in this because I know that Kathy did a ton of work on the Student Activities Fund. There's been some questions about the Student Activities Fund and how it works. I think it would be worth when you're all talking about the financial procedures manual, that you have Kathy give you a rundown of the Student Activities Fund and how that operates. An assessment at some point of the school town collaboration on building maintenance. We're really in the infancy stages. In fact, just I think this week or last week, we had sort of like the first thing happen. A compressor broke on the HVAC system, and there was an expense that had to be paid out of that town money for, I think it was about $11,000. So I think it's too early to really assess it yet, but I think that you all definitely want to circle back on that. And then the other thing that we spent some time on, and we said we would come back to later, was on the idea of the food, the recycling, and the sustainability practices in our school. So I think that would be worth some time as well. That is my report. I think that you guys will circle back to parent pickup. I was really talking about sort of major issues that we had spent some time on, but there are certainly some other things that you'll all need to touch base on, but those are the major ones. Moving into facilities and finance, we have our September report. Troy, I think, are you going to lead us through
Yes,
that?
yes, I am.
Okay.
So overall, spending is on pace, but I do want to point out several areas where if you first look, you might think it's not on pace. And so in your report, we've actually put notes on those lines. So if you look down at line 52 and 53, if you look at the numbers from the actuals, and you like multiply that out, it looks like maybe we're going to be over budget, but there's a reason for that. And we're in a collaborative for our health insurance with several other districts that provides a buffer for us for our insurance going up too far, too much in 1 year. So that group voted to pay a month ahead. So we've paid a month ahead. Okay, so that's why that number. So if you take that 606, that 600,000, and you multiply that by 4, thinking like we're only 4 years. So July, August, September, October, and I'm sorry, 3 months, 12 months in a year. So 3 would be 1/4. It would be like way over budget. Okay, so we're not. Okay, it's just we paid a month ahead. So we paid not 3 months, but 4 months. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm just pointing out the fact that if you looked at the numbers and you multiplied it out, you might think we're over budget, but we're not because we paid a month ahead. That's all. So in other words, in June, we're not going to pay. Okay, so if you go down to workman's comp, all right, so that one, if you look at it, it's like almost half of what we budgeted. We paid 45,000 of 90, right? Well, we paid for quarter 1 and 2. Okay, so quarter 3 and 4 will be about another 45,000, so we should be close to on budget there. But if you look at it without that comment, you might think, whoa, we're already way over budget, on pace to be over budget. And then, very similar thing with the liability on line 60, liability insurance. And then if you go down, there's a couple other fees that are paid at the beginning of the year. So it looks like we spent most, or in fact, a little bit over on the Board of Ed. But those are like beginning of the year fees. So we're not going to continue to pay those fees throughout the year. So we're okay with that. And I'll talk more about line 69 in a little bit, but you could see that we're over there. That has to do with expenses because of our cyber security incident. But this was to date. We have updated information to give you tonight, which includes these numbers plus more. So I'll give that to you when we get to that point in the agenda. 87, classroom supplies. Obviously, we buy classroom supplies early in the year, so that's why it's like a little over half of what we budgeted. We don't continue that rate of spending throughout the year. If you go to the next page, line 120, that's simply the renewal of our into reading program. And so that's paid at the beginning of the year. Line 135, interestingly, this is the officials and referees, which we're keeping a close eye on because we want to stay within budget on this. So we're going to be meeting with the athletic director to talk about this and transportation for sports and really work hard to stay within the budget. But it looks like we're okay now. This is just the numbers for soccer and volleyball so far. And then if you go down to line 177, we have, again, where we paid quarter 1 and 2 for maintenance agreements with New England Mechanical. That's why it looks like it's so big. But also, there's other expenses that have occurred. So this is a line we want to watch closely throughout the year. And we knew that we were trimming it back quite a bit when we developed the budget. But this is also a line where we're collaborating with the town. And there might be certain expenses like the condenser that Stephanie mentioned where the town would pay. So this is something we just got to watch closely. And Stephanie said, revisit how it's going. And then we got all this utilities and we're okay on all of those. We're on pace. Sharp transportation for Sharp Vocational, that was some summer programming. And then we have sports transportation, another line we got to keep a close eye on as we go throughout the year. But we just kind of want to list out like what we have so far for that spending. Let's see, technology. A lot of the technology is, fees that we pay up front. But with some of these software programs, we get the bill in the middle of the year because that's when we started it. When we started it like 3 years ago, they say, okay, time to renew. It's the middle of the year. Well, that's why we haven't paid it yet because we're still good, that kind of thing. But some of them we did pay upfront, and you can see which ones those are. New equipment, you can see we have purchased several things about that, and that's about it. I mean, so far we're okay. Other than as you know, like some of our special ed costs are scheduled to be higher. But yet it's still early, and I think we had talked about really doing the end of the year projections starting in November, right? So that we could more accurately predict. And Kathy and I believe that we're going to be able to do that more accurately this year than in previous years because Kathy and I together with administrators and teachers built this budget. We didn't build the prior budget. So that's what I have for that.
Thanks. Any questions for Troy on the September report?
I just had a question regarding the technology piece of things. And I think it's just me getting confused between which pieces of things are in our non-lapsing and which pieces of things are in our actual operating budget. Because we have teacher laptops in both of them because we split some out, correct? But we have the smart boards in both of them too, or is this whiteboard a separate thing?
Yeah, no. So the whiteboard is the smart board.
Okay.
Yeah, and you had said to you allocated money in your non-lapsing and in the budget, and basically for 5 smart boards each, from 5 from
Five,
non-lapsing,
five,
from
five
each.
come from each of those.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just starting to,
It is-
I was losing
it-
track of
it's-
which computers
believe
were
me,
coming out of which
it-
pot, which
I
smart board.
understand, very
I want to
easy
make
to
sure I
lose
keep.
track because, well, the board supported technology quite a bit, but partly it was from non-lapsing and partly from budget and, yeah.
Because my other one was the cameras, because I thought we had moved
Right.
all the cameras to the non-lapsing. But we have some cameras
So-
in the operating and some cameras in the non-lapsing.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and the cameras in here are really infrastructure in the budget, whereas the cameras in the non-lapsing was up to $13,000 you voted for to spend for cameras out of non-lapsing. We did that, but we bought additional cameras out of the budget from infrastructure.
Any other questions on the September report? Kathy, I just have one for you. Looking forward, is there any line besides, I mean, I know that we're concerned about the tech, like the consortium line for Learn and line 69 that we'll talk about later, but is there anything that you're red flagging at this point? Any like, wow, I'm concerned about?
Wait a minute, when you said the consortium line,
Well,
you-
but-
medical?
No, the consortium line, like obviously
Oh.
we're going to talk about that later
Yes,
because
you're
it will
gonna-
be impacted as well.
No, and I think to Troy's point, we're gonna, in November, have a forecast of each and every line item, and I'm in the process of doing that. There are some concerns with special education, but other than that, I don't see any concerns anywhere.
That's
right
great.
now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I think now we are moving on to non-lapsing. So if we look at that report, I have a couple of questions, but does anybody have questions before I start? Okay, so I know we're going to talk about this in a bit, but we have that $46,000 sitting there that we had devoted to irrigation. I was able to have a conversation with Bob and Alan in regards to how we can use that. And I know Randy's going to talk to us a bit about how the irrigation's been going. I'm sorry, how the sprinklers have been going and what he thinks. So what I learned about our STEEP grant is that if we decided to change the scope of the irrigation and decided to say irrigate just the baseball field and not the big field, we could use the STEEP grant for that. But because we've actually changed the project, we cannot use the STEEP grant to purchase an additional watering reel. So we can use our non-lapsing money however we want, but I don't know if we want to look at getting rid of that designation, that it's sitting there being held for an irrigation project that we're not doing. And then as I look to teacher laptops and smart boards, I wondered, and this is for Troy, we haven't expended all of those funds yet. Are we holding off on making some purchases?
I'll have to check on that because we did make some laptop purchases. And I know we allocated money from non-lapsing. I'm gonna need some time to look, find the answer to that.
Okay. And then if we look down to contract negotiations for teachers, so we had put $40,000 in that line. I think we're going to come in under that. So I think maybe
20 balance, you're thinking?
So we've paid 7,500 to date, and that's through the end of September. So if we took a swag, I'd say we're gonna spend 10 through the end of it, through October, we're almost done. And we should be able to take back 20, 21, 22.
and we have two smaller contracts to negotiate through the year, right? We have custodians
Custodian para.
and paras.
Is together though.
and we put in our operating budget $10,000 for those negotiations. So we have money put aside for that.
Yeah.
So the board may want to consider sort of de-obligating that money as well at some point.
Mhm.
I don't know what the update on the scoreboards are. Do you anticipate that we're going to be spending more, or are we done with that?
Yeah, we will be spending more for the installation or actually the materials to install. The town is helping us to do the install, which is a great partnership. But I think the materials to do the install, we actually just got a bill.
And that was for the batting cage.
Oh,
Yeah,
But
oh, I'm
we-
sorry. Oh, sorry.
I
I'm
just
thinking batting
approved the
cage.
batting
But we will be
Yeah.
getting a bill for the scoreboards when they're installed.
All
We're
right,
gonna
yeah,
need
I was
help.
thinking batting cage.
Yep.
Thank you.
and so then just a quick update on the batting cage. It shows that we have like a $1,700 balance. Today I approved an invoice for $1,100. So
Okay. yeah, so
That's-
it's-
that's sort of shrinking.
Yeah.
We do anticipate that $54,000 deposit from the last fiscal year at the audit into our non-lapsing account, correct?
54,000?
Yeah, because, you guys voted to put 54,000 into your non-lapsing and give 164 back to the town.
Oh, okay.
So but that won't come to us until
Till they
the
are.
audit's completed. When is that audit scheduled to complete?
So I've received requests for information, they're prepared by client list and we're uploading it. I spoke with the auditors last week and they informed me they would be coming in at first or second week of November to meet with the town and then I have to say last year, nobody came over here. So, but they're only in Providence and they said that they were coming in, I believe it was November 9th or 10th, whatever that following week was.
Terminal entertainment, this is a crime scene, okay?
Oh my. Thank you.
Goodness.
And so after they meet with the town, how long after that before they complete the audit?
Well, I would assume it's going to be complete by the end of the calendar year.
Okay. So I think that's helpful for us to know in terms of the flow of money into that account. Does anybody have questions or do you want to de-obligate any money tonight?
I mean, I don't feel comfortable de-obligating money until we hear a presentation about irrigation.
Sure. Fair enough.
We haven't gotten any of that information yet.
Yeah.
And
And so Troy, you'll circle back on that extra technology money so we know
Yeah.
what's happening with it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't look like we've spent any money on teacher laptops
That's-
out of that account.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
I thought we had a discussion that we were gonna buy some in the beginning and then some like 6
Right.
months later, so that they wouldn't
I
all
think-
have to be replaced at the same
Right.
time.
You may be right on that.
Yes.
And then was that the same with smart boards, Judy? Do you remember?
Because
'Cause
we were
it-
trying to stagger the.
Right.
replacement of
And
them.
it takes time to implement them. I know Randy's team.
For
worked
sure,
to
yeah.
get a number of men. We didn't want them sitting in the hallway. So we said we'd do half year and half year.
Yeah. we don't-
well,
Sounds
the
good.
discussion was about the idea of like, you don't buy two new cars at the same time
Yeah.
because then they're both going to need to be replaced at the same time. You want to try and stagger if we have the ability to.
Great. And it looks like that's happened with the smart boards. And maybe that's why we're seeing that in the budget, Chet, the way we're seeing it, that the first round of teacher laptops was purchased out of the operating
Right.
budget. Okay. So are there any other questions on the non-lapsing account? Randy, do you want to come up and talk about irrigation and our fields? Thank you for being here. So I guess we'd all love to know now that the summer's over and people have been playing on those fields. How'd the experiment go?
The experiment went great. And if you actually see the fields, if you looked at them and if you have any of your children that play on them, getting a lot of good compliments, nice and green. The water reel worked out great. We started it the first week of July. We ran it through the summer. We paused the first 2 weeks of school because we had rain mixed in there, plus they were using some fields more. And then we used it last week, third and fourth week of September, and then we haven't used it since. There is labor involved with it, but we had a system down where either I set it up or at the time Alan was setting up and I trained Andrew how to set it up. And we would run it about 6 hours a day, 6, 7 hours a day. That would be 2 runs at the soccer lacrosse field up and back. You have to move it once when you do that, when it tracks. And I was also able to water a little bit of the baseball and softball field. But of course, we had the issue with the hydrant that's at the flagpole where it stopped working. But luckily, we also had some rain there that helped out with the baseball and softball field. But as far as all the fields, I mean, the soccer field looks really good. So I think that it was a good test. We didn't run out of water. We did have a high water table as far as saturation over the springs. We had a lot of rain in the spring, so that helped out as well with not running out of water, but it worked out great. I know there's been discussions, well, maybe we should just get 1 master pump or get 2 new pumps just to make sure this works. And that way, you know, if it comes down to where if we ordered a second water reel, at least we could have 2 going at the same time. But I'll say I'm pleased with it. I like the fact that, you know, not just coaches, but students even say, wow, it looks great. I mean, you know, that's what it's about for the kids. So yeah.
It does look great.
Yeah.
You guys have done a great
Yeah,
job.
thank you.
Do you recommend, like, do you have a recommendation about how we proceed? Should we be buying additional equipment?
Well, definitely have to get that hydrant fixed. And I know Alan at the town, he's had guys there, they pulled up components to it. There's certain seals that have to be redone, section of pipe that have to be redone in that hydrant. I would like to see a new pump or another pump installed, so we have 2 functioning pumps in case something happens. But to be honest with you, the way that we did it, I don't foresee an issue if we just continue using these water reels or water reel to begin with. If we can get 2, great. But I think it worked out great.
Would 2 be helpful?
As long as we have enough flow and we're able to keep up with running 2 at the same time, because then you're running pumps. So, I mean, right now we can get by with 1, seeing how it goes. If we are able to work next summer doing both fields, maybe we can see what 2 will bring and if it'll work out or not. I just don't want to see it, 1 getting dried out if they can't keep up, if the water can't keep up with how much we have in the holding tanks. You know, then we're running out of water just quicker than what we can water the fields with.
So it sounds like we have to wait a little bit to hear how we're going to fix that.
Yeah,
one
and I
hydrant,
would
right?
say we'd probably want to get that hydrant fixed first, then we can really test it by, you know, doing both fields. You know, like do 1 field on Monday, do, you know, Tuesday, and that way we can flip it around. That way we'll
Yeah.
do all fields.
Okay. Thank you. Do you all have questions?
Yeah, I just have a quick one. Do you think this added to your workload at all? to
Oh,
have-
it did. Yeah, it
Okay.
did. It did.
Was
yes.
it manageable or do you think?
It was manageable. I did it once Alan from the garage trained me, because it's something, you know, you see it once, okay, I got it. No, you got to do it a couple times, you get the hang of it, then you start doing. But I did it most of the mornings. Plus, you know, we were on the summer shifts too, so we were 10-hour days, Monday through Thursday. But once I trained, you know, our previous maintenance person, he got the hang of it. So if I wasn't around or if I was tied up, he could run it. And now Andrew knows how to run it. The time that, if you're asking like how much time did it takes about maybe a half hour to set up and then to go change it out again, maybe 20 minutes. So you're looking at about an hour a day of extra labor.
Can you just remind me how much the reel was?
I think if I look back, it started, maybe we started around 11 or
It's
12,
11,000
but then
change,
we had
yeah.
to add a bunch of little pieces in
Yeah,
there.
filter and yeah.
And some of
filter
that stuff
piece.
was related to not so much the reel, but our pump system, right?
Right, correct.
Yeah, but I think it was 11 or $12,000 for
Around
that
that, yep.
setup.
Yep.
And I think that part of that is because Alan had access to the hose
Yes, from the fire department.
already
right.
because it was from the fire department. I don't know if there would be more of that if we had to buy another one, but I think they retire them pretty frequently.
They do. They do. And they even had one that had sprung a leak after the first 2 times using it. So they just gave us another one.
Oh,
so, yeah.
That's great. Okay.
There is some details in the non-lapsing report, anywhere it says sprinkler. Or little, you know, some of the small little components, and they all add up.
But those aren't all related to the reel itself. So those are some of the pump issues that we had, the
Yes, right, yeah,
gaskets,
yeah.
the seals, that sort of stuff.
So I mean, all total, even if it was 20,000, we're looking at about half the cost of what we were even going to contribute. Okay.
It was
And-
really cost effective, I think.
Right, but I mean, I am concerned about the added time. But if you think that it was relatively manageable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, especially during the summer, because that's when we're mostly going to use it in summer. Unless we have plenty of rain during the summer, but lately we haven't. Rain more in the spring, but yeah, it's manageable.
Any other questions for Randy? Thank you so much. I appreciate you being willing to try something new and see if we could
Definitely.
make this work in the absence of trying that irrigation. Thanks for coming and reporting on it as well.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. So it sounds like maybe we have to hear from Alan that hydrant's going to have to be addressed at some point, and then you may want to consider buying another reel for the baseball field. Anyone else want to talk about irrigation or the steep grant? Okay. Troy has an update for us on the technology issues and the expenses.
Okay, so before I get into the details of expenses, I'd like to publicly thank the teachers for all of their perseverance and patience and troubleshooting and problem solving throughout this really difficult time. It's been about a month, a little over a month of a really difficult time to teach. And, you know, they still have the same kids coming in front of them every single day who are used to certain routines and transitions. A lot of it's tied with technology and having the projection. And a lot of our curriculum is actually based in that. Our math and reading programs have components that are science programs have components that are electronic and access websites, and they haven't been able to access the websites they need. They haven't had their laptops. We gave them laptops, we took them away, and we wiped them clean for security reasons. And this was a very, very serious situation, and we had to take every precaution to make sure it didn't get worse. But the teachers really stepped up. They kept learning going the best they could. They created plans that were technology based and other plans that were not technology based because they didn't know if they'd have the technology or not. And we had problems with the internet, right? Is the internet even strong enough? Do we have internet? How do we access it? So they really persevered, and I do appreciate all their work on this. Yes, I've met with the teachers union. I've talked to some individual teachers. I've gone to the classrooms, and I've heard from individuals directly how frustrating it has been. And it's helpful for me to hear that. And I want to support the teachers as much as I can. And my administrative team wants to support them as much as they can. And we've had conversations about how do we do that. And when there are opportunities that come up, we'll try to think about how can we do it. So an opportunity just came up, like when I had to, I wasn't planning it, but I had to cancel the first 2 hours of school, right? So there's 2 hours, right? On the half day that we had today, we said, okay, if you're meeting with a NEAS committee, you still got to do that for 45 minutes. The rest of the time you have. So we're trying to think of ways to ease it up a little bit. I'm still talking with my administrative team about it. I'll still talk to the teachers union about it. Still open-minded about ideas and how to make it easier. And I'll talk a little bit more about a possibility a little bit later. I also want to publicly thank my administrative team who put a ton of time into advocating for their schools. And a lot of conversations, a lot of reprioritizing. They worked really hard as well. The teachers worked really hard, the administrators worked really hard. And you know what? Thank you to my central office, who also worked really hard through this time, also on personal laptops and hotspots to keep the district functioning and continue to make sure payroll happens and all those types of things. It was difficult. It's been difficult all around. I want to publicly thank my IT department, and I don't think people realize all that they have done. We've had Greg Cormier on staff, and we've had probably an average of 3 people from Learn here full-time every day, helping us get through this situation. And they all have different areas of expertise. One is like a network, internet kind of expert. One is more of a server, data expert. Other people, technicians to help Greg, are more like, hey, let's see if we can help the teachers reconnect their projector, or let's see if we can get the desktops working in the labs again. There are so many components to this situation. Like, it's really hard to even understand it. And then there's the other components I'm not even talking about. Okay, which occupy a lot of time, and we got to make sure things are done legally and properly, and we don't compromise. We don't leave our system vulnerable. So there's all of that. I'm going to say this. I'm not promising this. Okay, but Jackie, you talked about it, about the H drive. We have not given up on the possibility of retrieving the files. So that's still being worked on. Okay. So, you know, I really appreciate it. It's been a tough time for everybody. And I do appreciate, you know, people trying to understand how tough it's been for each other. And we're all a team, but we all have different roles on the team. And our communication could have been better. Probably we also were told we couldn't communicate using email, right, about the situation. So we had to follow legal advice throughout the situation, because if you don't do that, then you can really get yourself in trouble, right? So anyway, there's that. Let's get to the numbers.
Can I
Yeah.
stop you for one
Yes,
second?
please.
I think we're missing an important piece here. You keep referencing the situation, but we haven't actually talked about what the situation is. And I know that
Oh, yeah,
we've
yeah,
talked
yeah.
about
So,
it
sure,
and the
yeah, yeah,
teachers,
yeah.
and there was some
Okay,
communication
so-
to parents, but not to the general public.
Right. Thank you. So our situation is we had a cybersecurity incident where our servers on site that housed files from years had been compromised. Okay. And we had to collect all teacher laptops to make sure they were secure. We had to shut down all desktops to make sure they were secure. So we could say we had a cybersecurity incident that occurred not internally. It was someone from the outside that caused this to happen, probably someone in a different country. And we're still working on it. We're still ongoing on that. Is that enough of a description?
I think the other important piece is that we were also, in addition to taking away and shutting down equipment, we had to, for some period of time, shut down the internet. And that was
Oh, yeah.
something that we did here in an effort to protect everything until people were able to get a handle on what was going on, and then slowly reopened it up in a way that would first meet the needs of students and
Yeah,
teachers.
so the rebuilding process is one major aspect of this that has other smaller components to it. But the rebuilding, so there's the whole issue of making sure we're not vulnerable. And then there's the rebuilding, you know, and also, you know, the figuring out like what happened. And then the plan in moving forward. And obviously some of our infrastructure is old, and this was a factor in here. The infrastructure being old was definitely a factor. So I'm glad the board has you really committed to technology in the last budget season, and we were making we had a plan, like a 5-year plan to get us up to speed and all that. It's just that this happened, and you know, it's nobody's fault that it happened. It happened, that we have to deal with it. So I'd like to talk about the cost of this cybersecurity incident. Kathy and I spent a great deal of time trying to come up with this fairly accurate estimate. We have some bills that have been paid, other bills that are on the way. We've had to estimate. We had different lawyers estimate what the rest of their bills are going to be, et cetera. So this is where we're at. In terms of legal fees, we're at $41,000. All said and done. Cyber Reason is a company we hired and their consultants for $80,000. Learn, who is our regional education support center. Remember, they have given us about 3 people each day for like a month, 46,000. Infrastructure, 30,000 for a total of 197,000. Kathy and I have talked to the insurance company several times, and we believe they're going to cover 100,000. Okay, which brings us, if that happens, it brings us to a net of $97,000 cost of this cybersecurity incident. So that's where we're at.
Troy, could you or Kathy talk a little bit about the insurance coverage? Thank you. I'm sure you've been on the phone with them a lot.
Obviously, at the time that this occurred, understanding what our insurance would cover and would not cover was a process. And initially, I met with the town manager because the town and the Board of Ed share a crime policy. So I met with her and we talked through it and she goes, I don't know if it's going to cover this. I was like, okay. But what we did was we filed the claim and the insurance company, it's $100,000 policy. That's it. That's the max we can get. And the insurance company called and spoke with the folks from Learn and they explained what happened. And they said, yes, to the cost to rebuild our system back to what it was at the point that it was compromised would be reimbursable. And so to that would be what we're paying to for the technology and what we're paying to Learn. It would not have paid if we had had any negotiations with anybody to get our data back. It would not have paid that because that would have been ransom and it would never pay that. And immediately, I believe I said that it's not going to cover ransom, but we weren't sure at the time what it was going to cover. So in speaking, Troy and I spoke extensively with the insurance company, and we know what we have to submit to them. And I've begun you have to have a detailed explanation and on and all of the expenses, and the expenses are not quite done, but when they are, we will submit it all to the insurance company. And hopefully.
Well, I appreciate both of your advocacy on behalf of our school district with the insurance company, because to cut this huge bill in half is so good. It's so good.
It was I don't think it was an extremely difficult situation for everyone. The teachers certainly worked hard and still are working hard to be able to teach our children. But our superintendent was amazing. And the folks that I worked with, Brandon and so forth, it was a team effort to even get back to where we are. It was a lot of hours, a lot of stress, a lot of anguish. And I don't think it should be lost on anybody here how much time and effort our superintendent put into trying to make this right.
It certainly was an interruption in your normal everyday business, for sure. Troy, did these numbers include like a look forward?
They don't include a look forward in terms of having some safety measures put in place to prevent something from happening again. I'm waiting. I had a meeting today and I'm supposed to be getting quotes on what it looks like to protect us moving forward, but that will likely cost additional money over this.
But that will be something that we'll need every year. That'll be that will have to go into our operating budget.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So Troy, do you or Kathy, do you have recommendations about the $97,000 that we have to pay, where do you see that coming from?
I think, as I sit and listen to you folks talking about the non-lapsing and the 46,000 for the irrigation that perhaps we're not going to use. Well, that 97,000 could go down by 46,000, and the contract negotiations that we, fortunately wrapped up quickly because our faculty is so wonderful, and that's $20,000. So as we look at non-lapsing, maybe that 46, 48, whatever it was, and the 20, that's a good chunk of it. I mean, we're whittling away at it. Right now, again, November should be a forecast. I can't tell you off the top of my head if there's any wiggle room in there right now, but at the very least, I would, if we're not going to spend those monies on non-lapsing for the irrigation and the contract negotiations, perhaps you folks would consider putting that towards the 97.
That makes a lot of sense to me. You've paid stuff? I mean,
Oh, yeah. Yep. And
already.
in fact, if you looked at the
On
the
line
sheet,
69, right? So
69,
what-
that's the cash that we paid out through the end of September.
Yeah.
Yep. And this is the forecast of it being completed and moving on.
So if you, thinking about our meeting schedule, do you need to see a vote on that today? Like, what do you
No, not at
need
all.
from us?
Well, that's a good question. Because if we truly are we've paid, off the top of my head, I can't remember what we paid year to date, but if we're going to have to pay, we're going to have to pay something out of non-lapsing, because but they also too, we gotta, I feel like I'm rambling here, but if we don't pay it out of non-lapsing, you can't go back and refund us out of non-lapsing is what I'm
Right.
trying to say.
Right.
So we need to make a decision that perhaps the remaining costs for Cyber Reason and Learn would come out of that non-lapsing. So I think we might want to consider, and the irrigation project, the contract negotiations, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but
Are you guys willing to have a discussion about that now? I hear what you're saying, Kathy, that while we might not know exactly what or when, if once you pay it out of the operating budget, it becomes so much more complicated.
to get it back.
Because
right,
then we've got to figure out something
Right.
else we could take out of the operating budget to
Right.
use non-lapsing for to
right.
counteract
And
it.
I don't know all the ins and the rules, but non-lapsing Learn is labor. But it's not any different than Cyber Reason is labor, but we're paying a contract.
It's a
and it-
contract. I feel
it's-
like that's
so-
different than like
okay,
paying a
good.
paycheck.
But,
Yeah,
but,
it's-
but what I do wonder is, and I know technically, I think you can make an argument in any way, shape or form that anything that affects the school becomes an educational expense.
Mhm.
But with an attack like this, is this an educational expense? Because that is one of the requirements, correct? I mean, does this count as,
Well, it certainly impacted education.
it impacts education, but the process for us handling it, I'm just, again, I'm just looking to have a discussion. I don't know
Yeah.
what the answer to that is. My concern is if we start stretching things on the educational aspect, I mean,
Sure.
certainly education was impacted, but is this considered an educational expense, or are we're paying lawyer fees and a process for things that occurred to our network that's not, I don't know,
I guess I could make the same.
it doesn't work in my brain quite right.
Sure, I could make the same argument for irrigation or even for teacher contract negotiation. So I think that educational expense is sort of a wide sort of situation here, that it's stuff like, I don't think we could go pave the road in front of the school with the non-lapsing count, right? That wouldn't be an educational expense, but
Well, it also wouldn't be anything we would ever do.
well, we paved, we used our STEEP grant to pave our parking lot,
Right,
out of non-lapsing.
yes.
And we put a gate up that was impacted by our school building project through non-lapsing. And we put wires and cameras. And so like those all have to do with the way our students are educated. But I don't know that you could say a camera directly impacts a student's education. You might be able to say it impacts their safety. But I don't know that paving a parking lot impacts education or safety. It was great because it provided us with
There's some
more,
pretty big holes in that.
with
parking
more
lot. I think that was a
parking, but we
clear
also,
safety- I think that was a clear safety thing.
we
too.
also did it so that we could put a mural down, right? Because that's great. So we use some for playground. So I think that it's perfectly appropriate. I wouldn't think that it falls outside of not only what we can do, but what we have done. If we look at some of the other things that we've used our non-lapsing account for.
I think it's perfectly falls under the education expense. Our teachers didn't have what they could do to properly teach our children, and to get it fixed and to get it up and running, we have to pay for it somewhere. I mean, these are the tools that they needed, and it impacted them in such a way that it's definitely an educational expense.
No,
I appreciate you just wanting to talk it through.
I'm not arguing strongly in one direction. I'm just saying that it feels different in my head because it's like legal expenses in this aspect that hit differently. But
I guess what we know is that we have the expense. And so the expense is going to have to be paid. And so, sure, if this board decides not to pay it out of non-lapsing, it will be paid out of operations. But if it's paid out of operations, then we'll pull stuff out of the operating budget that will have to be paid out of non-lapsing, because we don't necessarily just have it floating around. So I see what you're saying from like a fundamental perspective. But this will also,
no, and don't get me wrong, I would happily vote to
Okay.
put money to non-lapsing. Nobody
Okay.
needs to convince me that we need to use the non-lapsing to be able to pay this expense. I
Yeah.
was just throwing it out there because it was something that came into my head as I was considering it,
sure.
because I wasn't planning on having this conversation. So I'm speaking
Yeah.
just from the reactions that I'm having, because
Yeah.
this was nothing I could prepare for because I didn't know we were having it.
Well, it was on the agenda that we were talking about expenses. And we don't have to have the conversation and we don't have to vote. I think that as we're talking, Kathy's saying,
Gonna have to pay the bills.
we're going to have to pay it. And I want to make sure that we're providing enough. If we can provide her with some coverage in terms of her ability to be able to do that, I want to support her in any way that we can. But if you don't feel like you can vote on this, I mean, that's up to the board. I don't know. We don't have to force a vote.
Is this something that are considering voting on this evening or at a later date? With non-lapsing?
I think I'm hearing Kathy saying if we could do something.
I would say this evening, Lisa, only because I'm gonna have to pay the bills in November. And if I don't have a vote tonight, I don't know where I'm gonna pay them from. Operations or non.
So are we talking about $67,000 coming out of non-lapsing? Is that the number? Because I'd like to make a motion and. then,
Well, I was gonna say,
then
I think we should
followed
have a
by
motion so we
discussion.
can have a
Yes.
discussion. and
Yeah, I
set the
just wanted the
motion.
number
Can
to
you give
make
us
the
a number,
motion.
Kathy?
I would say it's the 97,000 because it's
97,000.
197,000, 100 grand is
All right.
insurance, hopefully. And then balance would be non-lapsing.
Do we
Do
have
we
that much?
97,000 because we currently have.
Hang
Oh,
on.
no, no. If, what we would have to first deobligate
Yeah,
money.
Quick math.
So,
Can-
right, first
sorry.
we would have to
Can I
say,
just-
yeah, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, can
Yeah.
I just have a clarification? Perhaps I missed it.
Yeah.
The money that we are giving back to the town and that is also going into the non-lapsing, I just need a clarification on where that stands. Because at one point we did talk about that.
We actually voted on it.
Yeah,
So we voted that we would retain the $54,000 that we initially decided, or we were told 54 was coming back to us.
Mhm.
So when the new number was 218, we voted to keep that 54 and send the 164
Mhm.
back to the town.
Yeah.
Now, I would imagine if you want to change that, that would have to be changed prior to the audit being completed.
I guess we are draining this account so much that is making me very uncomfortable. And while I'm all for decommissioning that 46,000, and sure, the 20,000, we're still not quite there and we're draining things. So I really wish we would consider that extra money to help with this, because I don't want to see anything really impacted in the future based on this. And that to me seems like an easy way that we can not impact anything for the school. The teachers are already struggling with this. Like, I don't want to take any more away from them. Yes, it would be very nice if we could get this back, but to me, this doesn't make any sense to take it from there.
Here, I would make a motion to take 97,000 from the money that we were going to return to the undesignated fund, out of that return to use to directly fund the cybersecurity incident and the expenses therein.
I second. Oh,
Do we want to have some discussion about that?
Are you saying, out of the hundred and how many $1,000 that we were? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
$164,000? I personally, would not be for that because we have, a possible special education expense coming out, that we would need an appropriation for. And we have already said we would give that back to the town. So this is what I'm thinking. We could deobligate $46,000 for the irrigation and deobligate $20,000 the teachers' contracts, which would be a total of $66,000. And we have $32,886 left in there. And if we added the $54,000 that we would be putting in there, without touching that 160 something going back to the town, that is $152,000. So if we removed, or not removed, but obligated $97,000 out of our non-lapsing, we would still have $55,000 in there that was not obligated to anything. And I just want to speak to the point that I realize very seriously that that the money that we have in non-lapsing is precious. It helps us plan for things that are outside of our operational budget, one-time expenses, but it helps us responsibly plan for bigger things for our students to give them the best educational experience possible. But it's also important to realize we didn't always have this account. And $55,000 in there is still a good number. I mean, I know it doesn't feel good to take from that, but this is a one-time expense. I think it totally it's totally necessary to take it out of the non-lapsing. The cyber security incident did significantly impact our teachers' ability to teach our children, even though, with their dedication and their talent, they continued to provide without losing a minute of giving them an excellent educational experience. I'm not sure the students felt any of this, which is testament to our teachers. But yeah, I would not be in favor of reducing the amount that we plan on giving back to the undesignated fund, because I think we do have it here.
I'm going to agree with Lisa that right now we have just about $33,000 in uncommitted funds in our account. So we know we're not doing the irrigation project, so we deobligate that, and we know we only need $20,000 for that legal money. So when we deobligate that, we have $66,000 without changing anything that we were planning to deliver and without touching that bottom line number that we sort of sit with. We know we have $54,000 coming in. So to me, we can give Kathy $97,000 for these expenses while still retaining $54,000, which is more than we have today, free to spend. I also feel like Lisa said, we have this looming special education expense that we don't know how much it's going to be. And if we have to go back to the town, it would be nice to sort of have that sitting there. We're not really going to disrupt anything else. I think that feels irresponsible to me to say, I know we have this money, but this wasn't anticipated, so we don't want to use it. And maybe I'm more comfortable because like Lisa, I remember the years that we didn't have this account and we really were able to do things. And we had a pretend inflated idea of what this account was supposed to look like because of COVID. So we got used to really high numbers, but in actuality, we're never going to see those $265,000 numbers that we did during COVID. I think that our deposits will maybe be somewhere between the $15,000 we got last year and the $54,000 we'll get this year. And that probably means that everybody's doing a really great job. So I'm going to be opposed to that as well. Anyone else? Oh, wait, you turned yourself off. You were on.
Just to understand the special ed, hypothetically, if we go to the town for an appropriation, we're not going to be able to put any money into this next year because we will be asking for additional monies from the town. So we would not be funding this after this year. Because at the end of the fiscal year with the additional special education, we're going to be over budget. We're going to go to the town. So there won't be even 15,000 to put back into this.
So you're saying that there's not an anticipated deposit into non-lapsing for fiscal year 26 if we go to the town for an appropriation.
Right, because I would assume they're going to say, well, whatever your budget is, whatever you spent your budget, if we could absorb any of those special eds within that budget, then we have to do it. And we would go for an appropriation for the difference. We're not going to have anything left over if we're asking the town for more. And it's hypothetical. We don't know that that's what we're
Sure,
doing,
but that's an excellent point, and one that we haven't encountered yet.
Yeah, right. So just, I mean, to Jamie's point, yeah, there's going to be nothing left.
Well, there'll be
But to Lisa's
$54,000.
point-
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
Well-
still have $54,000. And wouldn't we be going for the appropriation in around April
Okay.
or so, or whenever we would go for it? But anyway, I feel like, I mean,
I get it.
I don't do
No.
what you do. I'm not pretending to know what you do, but I'm saying is, so we do the appropriation if needed. We may
Yeah.
not even need an appropriation, people. I'm just throwing it out there. And we receive this appropriation for the special ed. There's still, all these budget numbers and stuff, and it could come up $10,000 over. It could come up less,
Yep.
under or over. But I'm just not sure that one thing has
Okay.
anything to do with the other
And-
with regards to an appropriation.
Okay, and that, I
You
would
know what I
look, I
mean?
guess, towards you folks, with the appropriation, would we request the specific amount for special education that we didn't budget just for special education? Or would the town say, absorb it within your budget and whatever the difference is, we'll give you an appropriation? I don't know.
I
suppose
think
you could
that's
absorb
what-
you can.
I think that's what you have to do.
That's
Yeah, yeah,
what we
yeah.
could,
Yeah.
But then anything beyond that,
Right, yeah, but it just
but still, we don't close out until what, August 30th?
August
September
31st?
30th? Huh?
August 31st?
August 31st, yeah.
Can I also just add, though, that the reason this number is low and where we've been kind of working is we've had to take things out of our budget to accommodate the incredibly low percentage that we've been requested by the Board of Finance. So while I like to think that that wouldn't be a problem going forward for this budget cycle, we also had contract negotiations. So our percentage is going to go up and we don't have that wiggle room. So it is going to cut into things that we're going to provide for our students. So if we can have this wiggle room here in this budget, in this non-lapsing account, it provides us that safety net. I don't like taking things out of there in the budget. I mean, I am the one that's sitting up here saying like, no, I don't want to take this out of the non-lapsing, but year after year we're taking things out of the non-lapsing to accommodate the budget to make that low percentage, but now we're taking it out of that. And so what's our safety net going to be?
Well, we would still have $55,000 left in the non-lapsing as a safety net. And I feel like the teachers' contract negotiations, which was in non-lapsing, I think we did that after a conversation with the Board of Finance that, if we put it in there, $50,000, I think was originally what we thought it may be, $55,000 or whatever. And a member made Board of Finance member made a point, well, if you don't use that, it still remains in your operational budget and you can't take that away. And so that's why we had put it in here and, and it did end up being, being less.
What happens the next time we negotiate the contract? Does it get put back into the operation?
We could put it in the operational budget.
And
for
that's
sure,
why- and
but,
that's why
I
we
don't-
left-
But I think we put all of it in.
Right.
Right.
As a matter of to keep it down. I think
Yes.
this time we did put
Yes.
all of it.
Yep. But
in
we
non-lapsing,
wouldn't have
however-
this next time, so it would have to go into operations.
Sure.
So when the Board of Finance
Yeah.
says you can only have 4% increase, and we're trying to put another 25,000 in for contract negotiation, what has to get cut to maintain that 4%?
I think that's why we left the $10,000 in, because we usually have that in every year, right? It's every third year that it gets a little bigger.
Yep.
But we didn't want to artificially grow the budget. And I actually think it was Chet's really good idea to do that. It was a great way to allow us to not move something from our operating budget into the non-lapsing, like Jamie was concerned about. I know we did do some technology as part of our technology growth plan. And I think that there are a lot of taxpayers that would say that that's a great use of this non-lapsing account, is that we still fund technology, because if you remember, we funded every single line item in our budget. We didn't move anything out of our operating budget. We didn't zero anything out and pay for it out of the non-lapsing. But what we did was take a portion of that and put it in our non-lapsing, so that we're using both our operational budget and our non-lapsing account to support those initiatives. So I'm really proud of what we've been able to do with the non-lapsing. I think we were able to shore up a ton of stuff that we probably shouldn't have been responsible for with the school building project. I think we continue to find things like the generator that probably should have been handled with the school building project and wasn't, and now it falls on our shoulders. And so I'm really proud of what we've done, but I also see the other perspective, which is you can't just hold on to the taxpayers' money and say, I don't want to use it. I want to use like a different pool of money. I think it's a bit of a give and take. And so I think that if you think long-term strategy, the give and take and the compromise and the collaboration is the way to go, because I think it's been a long time since anyone has seen the no vote on the budget, and the no vote is very bad. It's very bad for everyone. And again, I think Lisa and I have lived through the no vote, and it's scary. And so we have to really play the long game.
I think there's a motion on the floor.
Does anybody else want to speak about this?
Can you repeat the motion, please? Sorry.
The motion was to take 97,000 out of the money that was being returned to the town out of our prior year operating budget to pay for this unexpected expense.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. Do we have does anyone want to make a new motion?
I make a motion to deobligate a total of 66,000. Do I need to itemize? A total of $66,000.
Yeah, because I think, just to make it
Okay,
clear.
to deobligate $46,000 from the irrigation and $20,000 from the teacher's contract, for a total of $66,000 out of non-lapsing. And can I do it in addition to obligate $97,000 to pay for the cyber consult and learn?
I'll second.
Do we want to have discussion about that?
Well, 60, so we have 32, we have 32 plus 54. Okay, all right, sorry.
I wish Christine were here. I feel like she's one of our very strong financial people. And I miss her opinion in this situation.
Any other discussion? What if we were to do a hybrid of both plans? And what if we were to take that $66,000, maybe bump it up to $70,000 out of our non-lapsing, and then take the remaining 27 out of what was going to the town, so that we would retain the bulk of that 32, right? So that means that we'd retain like $30,000 in uncommitted funds that we're looking at right now. And then we'd still have the anticipated deposit of 54,000. So really all we're doing is taking money that we've deobligated and put it towards that.
82,000.
You're saying reduce the 164 to the town by 27?
Yes.
And that would leave us with 82,000 in our non-lapsing account when all is said and done.
Right.
Could I just throw, I would love to see that be the 46 that we deobligate from the irrigation project and 50 off of what we would be giving back to the town, simply because of the fact that our teacher contract, we're having a discussion, I know, in executive session today. I don't know the exact pieces of that, but I know that until it sits in town hall for 30 days, we're not done with it. And I would just, I don't know the specifics because we haven't had this conversation yet. So just saying we're done and there's not going to be any other possible expenses out of that 20 to me is premature. Deobligating the 46, I think if we deobligate that and we take 50, I would happily jump on board with that. But adding the 20 into that, I'm concerned about.
I understand the $20,000 unknown. But in my mind, if we were $20,000 off, we would have a remaining $62,000 instead of $82,000 in the non-lapsing. I wouldn't want to reduce the amount going back to the town any more than the 27,000.
I'm also comfortable
like-
with Kathy just telling us that she thinks $20,000 all said and done at the end of October, knowing that we've paid, I think, seven something.
Well,
So
but
far.
I would also say we're putting this money back to the town into an undesignated fund that's already over its maximum that they're trying to spend out on capital projects. Like this is an unexpected expense that was like a lightning strike that hit our school, and our process here is to try and handle that in a fiscally responsible way. Again, like I think this is a balance between those two that's pretty fair, but.
And I'm struggling with this too, Chet, but I agree that they are asking us to spend down the undesignated fund. But we also might have to go back to them in a few months and ask them for money out of that fund.
I also think that we need to be clear that they're not spending it down. They're using money to either, they have two ways that they can do it. They can purchase future capital that's already there to reduce the taxpayer's burden in the next 3 budget cycles, or they can return that money directly to the taxpayer, right? So it's not about spending it down. It's about reducing the tax burden on people because they've already been taxed on that money. So we're holding taxpayer money, and the idea is to push it back out to them in a way. It's when you say spend down, it makes it seem like you're like buying an extra truck of something.
I'm sorry if it sounded, and what I mean, it is currently above the 17% maximum it should be at, and the goal is to have it below that 17%.
By returning it to the taxpayer.
Can I make a new motion?
Sure, you can amend your motion.
I make a motion to deobligate $46,000 for irrigation. Hold on a second here. Oh, crap.
Do you need a minute
Right.
with your motion?
Well, if I don't have to itemize it, the bottom line motion would be $65,000 out of non-lapsing and reduce the 164,000 going back to the town to 132, which would be a $32,000 out of the money going back Am I making any sense at all? Instead of $164,000 going back to the undesignated fund, 132,000. So instead of 27, I'm asking for 32. So $65,000 from non-lapsing, $32,000 reduced the original amount going back to the town, which would be a total of $97,000. And we would still be left with $77,000 in non-lapsing when all is said and done. Does that even make sense?
It made sense to me. I mean, the math part, I'm not sure I know where it's coming from.
So we would return to the town $132,000 instead of 164. And we would take $65,000 out of non-lapsing, and that would, bottom line, leave $77,000 in the non-lapsing account.
It would be 66 out of non-lapsing, right? 46 for the irrigation and 20 for the teacher contract.
65, no, I'm not talking about, yeah, 65,000.
So you're talking about not deobligating the teacher money,
Not
the
necessarily.
negotiation money, but actually taking it out of the uncommitted funds and then deobligating what we have left when we're done.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
The bottom line would be 77,000 left in non-lapsing.
I think, right, it's a little different than that check because I think she's doing 65,000 total out of the non-lapsing. Right.
I'm just trying to compromise.
Do we want to have discussion about that? If there's no discussion, do we want to take a vote on that? So we're voting on $65,000 coming from the non-lapsing account by way of deobligating the $46,000 meant for the irrigation. And then reducing the amount that we're returning to the town by $32,000 for a return to the town of $132,000. Do you want, okay, all those in favor? Oh, Oh.
I just need a minute.
it's okay.
I need to make sure this math is working. Like,
Sure.
I am not following
Sure.
these numbers.
Take a minute.
So
In that motion, are you specifying specifically the 46,000 from athletic fields and then the remaining balance of the 65 from the teacher negotiation?
No.
No.
Uncommitted.
Uncommitted, gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Jamie, tell me when you're ready.
I mean, I'm ready.
Okay,
No.
it's okay. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion carries. So we have changed the amount that will go to the town post audit to 132. Kathy, do you understand where all of that's coming from? Because that was a lot.
Nope, I
Okay.
understand.
Do we want to talk any more about this? Hearing that no one wants to talk anymore about this. Can I have a motion on the consent? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. 6E, capital list.
Yeah.
Okay, so the selectmen have talked about our capital requests at their last two meetings, and last night they voted on our capital list. They rejected the idea of keeping our outdoor track on the capital list, mentioning that it is a much better candidate for a steep grant because it would be reimbursable up to $80,000, and that would just be more fiscally responsible. The Kubota plow loader was rejected, and Bob makes it a point to say for now, because Alan is really taking a look at an alternative piece of equipment while getting a price on repairing what we have. There was also there's some talk about like maybe it should be a gator with a plow attachment. And then I think that there's even more conversations about town and school and sharing big pieces of equipment and how can we do that better, more efficiently, and that sort of thing. So Bob promises more conversation over the next few months, but for now that is rejected, but our floor machine has been approved. Any questions on our capital expenses?
Just curious how that works. So now that it's approved, if we wanted to get the floor cleaner, you can't, it's not, that doesn't work that way.
I think that,
Next
right, I
year.
think
Good
that we can't
talk.
get it yet until, right, the next,
We're
yeah,
not cleaning
yeah.
the floors till next year. Got it.
Yeah. But I think we took a step in the right direction, I think is what I learned. That's what it means. Okay. Now can I have a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Board of Ed comments on future agenda items. I'm not hearing any. Okay. Any public comment? And I guess I should say we're doing public comment now because we are going to move into executive session. And then I'm not sure what time will come out, but we want to make sure that we're not making the public hang out if they don't want to. So any public comment online, any public comment in the room? Oh, Nicole, hi.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I just had a quick question for Troy and the board. I was out in the community today and I had somebody let me know that when they went to go access the school site, that they were then hacked. And I just am wondering, do we have a process, without getting into minute details, do we have a process for vetting that out for community members that have believed that they have now been hacked because they entered the system at some point? And is that even technologically possible? So just wanted to see if there's a comment about that. If not, I can always follow up afterwards.
It doesn't seem that is possible. However, we would like to know if someone believes that's the case, so we can look into it and just confirm that it's not possible. So they can certainly call the central office and report what happened, and we can certainly have our IT department look into it and just confirm that either it was, I mean, who knows? I mean, technology is complicated. But it doesn't seem like that would be possible. I certainly would want to know, and we could take a look into it. So they can contact us. They call us, email us.
Thank you. That's exactly what I suggested that they did. So thank you, Troy.
Thanks for the heads up, Nicole. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. Anyone else? Okay. With that, can I have a motion to go into executive session?
Could I just ask a quick question, please? My name's Destiny.
Oh, of course.
I'm just wondering, with this whole cyber hack, how much of our children's information has been taken, or our teachers' information, and what should we be looking for?
Those are great questions. I think in the communication that you received on Friday, that's the information that we can provide right now about the systems that were not impacted. Does that make sense? I know that I'm probably not giving you a totally full answer, and I think that would be just because I can't right now. But the information that you had on Friday about the systems that were not impacted,
So our children's 504 plans and things like that could be impacted and that information could be with other people.
We'll be having more information come out soon about that.
Okay, I'm just wondering, because, I mean, I work in an environment where I would need to know if that information has been given out due to working for the government.
Destiny, your concerns are totally valid. And I'm sure you're not the only person feeling like that right now. So I apologize that I don't have other information for you. I guess the only thing I can do is validate that I would want that information too. I think a lot of people probably want it, and we'll get whatever information we can out as soon as we can. And I apologize for having to be so vague.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, with that, I will take a motion to go into executive session.
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Can I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. All right, we are going to go into executive session at 8:05.